Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Amanda Fest podcast, where our mission is simple. It's to inspire and empower you to take aligned action towards your dream life, whatever that looks like for you. I am very excited about today's guest. I have my friend Thomas here. Thomas enjoys figuring out ways to sustainably and enjoyably live life with other human beings, whether that is in intimate relationships, teams at work, or communities in society. Thomas continues to uncover practices and systems that help people to come together and do things productively and peacefully. This work is housed in the Human Together movement, where he offers courses and consulting to learn and implement these practices. He also stewards something called Sacred City, which is a magical place that he is building with a community of courageously authentic people. There are so many amazing things that I am very excited to dive into with this one. But as we've done with every episode, before we dive into the juicy conversation, we are going to take a moment to ground down. Get present, arrive in the here and now so that we can absorb all of the magic and all of the juice of this incredible conversation that's about to unfold. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if it's safe to do so, I invite you to start closing down your eyes. I always like to put a hand on my heart, one on my belly. Just start tuning into your internal world. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just noticing where you're at right now. How are you feeling? What's coming up for you? What's alive for you in this moment? And as you inhale, I want you to set an intention. I want you to think about what you're desiring right now in this moment. And I want you to imagine breathing in that desire through your inhale, so in through the nose. And I want you to imagine you're releasing anything that does not align with that desire, letting that go with the exhale, breathing out stress, worry, anxiety, anything you're holding on to, we're letting that go in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And on this last one, I want you to feel free to make some noise, shake it out, really get rid of any stale or stagnant energy you've got stuck in that body. Welcome. Welcome to your bodies. Welcome to Amanda Fest. And welcome, Thomas.
Honored. Yeah, I really am inspired by you constantly, and to show up in service in any way in your world is something I don't take for granted. So let's dance.
Let's fucking go. So I always love to start by sharing how we got connected. The story is a little bit convoluted. I feel like you might have a version and I have a version, but basically Alex, my second episode ever on this podcast, and the story how I met her is so crazy, but it was initially we were in Tulum in 2022. We were at the same hotel, or she was visiting the hotel that I was staying at for the Rufus du Sol Sun Dream Festival. And I had connected with Connor, her boyfriend at the time, like briefly, very briefly. We added each other on Instagram. And a couple years later, I was in Miami for Art Basel, and he was posting about Art Basel. And somehow, randomly, I ended up at Alex's apartment at like 4 a.m. on a random Friday. And Connor was like, "Hey, we know this girl." And she was like, "Who?" Her and I had never actually met. Maybe we crossed paths in Tulum briefly, but like the first time she met me was like on a random Miami night at her apartment at like 3, 4 in the morning. We went out once together and immediately it was synergy. We were just like, okay, same vibe, same energy. There's something here. Our relationship has progressed. And the minute she started to get to know me, very, very early on in our relationship, your name continued to come up over and over and over again. She knew that I was really into spirituality, that I was really into personal development. Obviously, I'm into dance and music and all these things. And she just kept saying to me over and over, "I have this friend, Thomas. You have to know him. You have to know him. You have to know him." So it wasn't very long until I think we got digitally connected first.
Yeah.
The first time we ever chatted, we hopped on a call and talked for an hour. And then fast forward to about, what was it, last month that I came up to St. Pete?
Yep.
Yeah, last month. And I did talk about it. So I've been doing solo episodes in between all these episodes. And I talked about my journey to St. Pete. That was
Mm,
to visit this lovely man, Thomas.
mm.
And I got to see what you're building. I got to witness Sacred City in real life. Yeah, so that's my little spiel of how we got to here, and then I'll pass the torch over to you if you have anything you want to add to that story.
Well, I mean, it's just like you two are so similar, and then I feel like we're also so similar. I feel like who you are, I'm over here and Alex is over here, and you're like a combination of that. So it's so fascinating. It makes so much sense why you love her. It's like that energy where we're partying, but we're doing it in an intentional way. We're taking everything to the next level with intentionality and health and fun and play. And then I'm
Yeah.
more like spiritual and kind of more on that side of things. You're such a beautiful combination of that. So it doesn't surprise me why y'all clicked, and it doesn't surprise me why we clicked.
I feel that energetically too. I always say I like dance
Yeah.
between realms. I
Yeah.
really see myself as this bridge between the two worlds. And yeah, of course, like I know you guys had a business together at one point. You were doing all this work together. So I'm so happy that we connected.
Me
I'm
too.
so inspired by you and what you're building. I know I explained a little bit at the top, but let's talk about humans together and then let's talk about sacred cities.
I'm here for it.
So tell me a little bit more about humans together, what it is, where it started.
Well, I think one thing was I had an awakening at a Chipotle around my love for
Right.
humanity. So I
Perfect.
was in a Chipotle and I was in a long line. Alex and I used to go to Chipotle every day for like years. No longer do that. I had some health stuff come up. But I was at a Chipotle and I was in a long line and I was frustrated. And I could feel myself like getting upset with the people in front of me and start to move into like a blame kind of victim mindset with the whole thing. And I was like, ah, man, why is it this long line? Screw this, screw people, whatever. And then I had this flash of the whole restaurant being totally empty. And it was just me. No one serving the food, no one on their phones waiting in line, like no human beings. And I got really sad in that moment. And I realized even though it's a little difficult sometimes, it's a little sticky, it's a little rough around the edges, there's disagreements, there's all this stuff that can happen in relationships. Even though there's all that difficulty and tension that can arise, and all that complexity and all that stuff, and all the work needed to come back into harmony, even though there was all that difficulty, I'd rather do life with other people. I'm just like, I'd rather not be alone. I'd rather go through that complexity so I can feel the creative potential of me and another person creating something together, or me and my team members building that trust and executing in, during an event or on a soccer field or wherever. I'd rather do life with other people. I feel possibilities in the air when I'm working with others. There's something beyond what I can do by myself. So I've been pretty obsessed with this for years.
When was this awakening? When was this Chipotle
The
awakening?
Chipotle awakening was maybe like 5 years ago. That's when it intentionally became clear that I love
Yeah.
human relating and I love this human dance I'm in. But I realized intuitively I've been doing this forever, from learning
Right.
how to be successful on a soccer field as a kid, to learning how to be in a fraternity in college, and how do we get a bunch of, juiced up dudes, 18-year-old dudes, myself included, just like in our egos, like how do we like get stuff done in any way
Yeah.
and have fun and not hate each other and destroy each other. So forever, I've been really interested in human psychology and relationships and how can we do this together? Because I know when we are in harmony, amazing things happen. That's really been the center of everything I've done for a long time. Like I prefer team sports over, tennis by myself. I prefer
Right.
the harmonics. I like choirs versus just someone playing a guitar. I like to see the harmonics at play. I like to see the teamwork. I like to see the coherence. I like to see when things get out of line, how do we show up for each other and come back into alignment? It's
Yeah.
interesting to me. It's a dance between what's in my control and what's not in my control, which is the other person. And how can we figure out a way to move forward, even though we may be a little different? So it's just an
Love
interesting
that.
thing. I think it makes life interesting, the dance of relating. And that's even
Yeah.
relating not just with people, but relating with my environment, relating with nature, relating with the unseen, just intimacy and coherence and harmony and agreements and renegotiation of agreements to continue to move forward together and co-create something magical together because it's fun. It's an interesting, fun way to live life from my experience.
So you took that inspiration and
Yeah.
then turned it into
Yes, humans together,
This thing.
which
And
is
what is that
I'm
exactly?
calling it a human relating school. So it's
Okay.
all the practices, whether it's with an intimate partner or a business partner or a team at a business or a team on a soccer field or a community in society. Any of these levels, sharing systems and practices and ways of communicating, ways of relating, negotiating agreements, ways to move forward together, essentially, in
Right.
any type of relationship, whether it's with one person, a group of people, or a community that's a little larger than that. The main focus right now is it's called restorative relating, which is for
Yeah.
one-on-one relationships. So best friends,
Right.
business partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, how to harness those moments of I feel hurt, I feel disconnected, get away from me, you're bad, whatever. How to harness those moments of perceived disconnection where I want to push someone away or turn away and run. How do I actually lean in and the other person leans in too? And through vulnerability, through empathy, through ownership, through a
Yeah.
willingness to negotiate and to create better agreements, how do we find a way forward again? How do we come back to that feeling of, I want to hang out with you all the freaking time? That honeymoon feeling. How do we come back to that? How do we restore that through this type of relating and then create agreements so things just keep getting better? The upward
Yeah.
spiraling relationship through moments of weird and tense and uncomfortable. Those can actually be these blast off moments of creating more intimacy and connection and more opportunity for us to learn about each other and do things better next time. So I'm
Yeah.
super into that. And then I'm super into team dynamics. How do we all
Yeah.
know, buy into one vision, know our lanes, know what success look like, and then have consistent check-ins to make sure that we're okay and to make sure that we can
Yeah.
continue to refine. So like continuously refining systems. I love that. And then I like
Yeah.
exploring community stuff too, community dynamics. So
It's so cool. It's such a special niche, but it's like crazy that more people aren't talking about this stuff. Earlier today, I had a founder on who he created a company and there's 5 co-founders. And he was talking about how at the beginning of creation, they worked with a coach and maybe they worked with you. I was like, damn, that's crazy to be dealing with so many different
yep,
personalities and you're building a company and making sure that everybody has the same level of passion and everybody has different needs and everybody
yep,
has different areas of magic and
yep.
how do you capitalize on all those. And as human beings we need support. I think that we're getting to a stage now in society where I feel like therapy and talking about our feelings and emotions is becoming way more destigmatized, but it's still on the up. But I think that the work that you're doing is so powerful and so important and so needed. So that's so cool that you've found that little niche in the world and you're just I've seen you do it. I've seen you in action. I've come to you with relational issues and you're a fucking wizard.
I love it. I'm down to unpack anything here if you want. So I'm always here for it.
Well, it's funny. I also talk about on a previous solo podcast, I had this massive, it's funny, I'm in her apartment right now, but me and this friend had a pretty intense come to Jesus moment where it was like, old version of me, old version of her would have just walked away from the relationship
Yep.
entirely. And to your point, we were able to move through it together. And now it feels like our relationship is so much stronger because I feel like when you have a relationship where there's no conflict, it's like, all right, eventually you're going to come to conflict. And the
Exactly.
question is like, it's not how are you when things are wonderful and amazing. It's how do you move through difficult moments and what does that look like? And what does that relationship look like on the other side? And obviously things have gone well. This is where I'm recording today. So,
Amazing.
but it's cool to, I talk about that a lot on this podcast and share very vulnerably on here because I'm like, that's some real shit that many people will just not even want to talk about or acknowledge.
I mean, the way I communicate with the people I care about and that I want to cultivate relationships with, I say, hey, look, we're two human beings. I have needs and conditioning and some wounds that I'm still maybe even not aware of. You
Right.
may have those things too. The odds are extremely high that I'm going to say or do something that's not going to feel so good for you, or you're going
Right.
to do something that's not going to feel so good for me, even if we don't intend it, even if we mean well,
Right.
something's going to
Right.
happen, right? So instead of being scared of that moment or pretending like it's never going to happen and being wildly unprepared, how about we have a conversation right now and acknowledge that may happen, acknowledge that we're two human beings and we're going to maybe
Right.
step on each other's toes, and talk about how do we want to handle that moment and show up for each other and ourselves when it does happen. So now
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer always worried. Oh no, are they going to reject me if I say something? Oh no, oh no. It's like, Now we've had a dialogue and we've said, I want you to come to me when something happens. I
Yeah.
commit
Yeah.
to showing up for you when that happens. Even at first, I feel a little triggered. I'm committed to turning back toward you because we're making an agreement right now. So when those landmines go off, we know what we're going to do. We have a plan. And having a
Yeah.
plan for those moments, to me, now it's more of an easeful relationship because when
Yeah.
those things do happen, which are probably going to happen, I'm not worried about it. I'm not scared about it. I'm not wondering if they're going to leave forever. I know they're going to meet me there. And yes, that conversation may lead to us parting ways, but we're parting
Right.
ways from a place of love and connection and honor and respect. We're not
Right.
parting ways from, I'm running away because I don't want to face this and I'm just going to judge you so I don't have to feel anything.
And
Yeah.
you have the ability to communicate to somebody how you show up. I mean, it's levels and layers, I'm sure, that you're working on with people. Because I remember, a couple of years ago, the first time I heard the word boundaries, and I was like, okay, what the fuck is boundaries? I remember so vividly the process I went through that I had to go through in order to comprehend the concept of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first step of it, before you even get to what are my boundaries, is what are my needs? And at that stage of my
Yeah.
life, I was so disconnected from my needs that if you had said, well, how do you show up when somebody triggers you? I'd be like, no, 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 I'm good. Nobody ever bothers me. Like, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
good. And it was because I was not in it. And then I did a lot of personal development work. I got really clear on, okay, I have needs. I have triggers. There are things that bother me. I'm aware of them. Awareness, step
Mm-hmm.
number one. Then I was like, all right, now that I know this, I have to tell you, because anyone that I'm in a relationship with, I'm like, I want to give you the keys to the kingdom. I want to give you the keys to success. I don't want you to have to try to figure out. I'm like, listen, these are my triggers. These are my wounds. These are things that may come up. And if you hit them, this is what's going to happen. And so it's like going through those different layers of the awareness, the connection, and the conversation. And then I had a really hard time with upholding it, where I was like, all right, if you cross my boundary, there's going to be a consequence. It's not, oh, no worries. It's fine. I don't care. It's, there's something that's going to happen if this doesn't happen.
Yep.
And going through the layers and the levels of that, I remember each individual stage of it was like pulling teeth. I was like, I'm fine, I don't have feelings, I don't know. Then I was like, I don't want to tell you, I don't want to say anything. And it's like, damn, to have somebody hold your hand through that and teach you that and support you with that is like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I always say courage is the catalyst to break through. And to me, I think pain is a great catalyst in all of this. A lot of
Yeah.
times, the people I feel like tend to come to me are pretty done with the people pleasing. They're pretty done with the abandonment of self. They're done with holding things back because they're afraid of being rejected. They're pretty tired of all the tension that's felt, all the
Right.
resentment and tension and disconnection, and they're just done with that. So they're willing to do the scary thing, which is lean in
Right.
and have that dialogue. I've seen that the pattern is, well, the pain of doing something new is not as bad as the pain of what I've been going through for 30, 20, 30 years. I'm done with
Yes.
that. So I'm willing to do something new.
So is it like one-on-one coaching? Is it a program? What specifically is the method through which you're supporting people in this process?
Restorative relating, there's right now a free course that you can download, and
Okay.
it teaches the basic foundational, I call it the restorative conversation. And that's
Right.
when the landmine hits, what do we do? How do we show up in
Right.
that conversation to come back to that feeling of connection and play and I want to be around you all the time? And then how do we improve our agreement in our relationship? How do we negotiate that so everything gets better for both of us? So it's like really super comprehensive. And then what you can then buy after that is the restorative invitation, which is that upfront conversation, which is, hey, things are going to get weird. I'd love to negotiate how we're going to show up in that. So like it's a step by step how to have that dialogue. And then the second thing you can buy is what I call the restorative check-in, which is more like for a business partner, an intimate partner, someone I'm really committed to and doing life with. It's a way to set up a recurring check-in so we can, clean the house, we can do the
Yeah.
restoration, and also we can involves affirmation. So not just cleaning up what feels tense, but also affirming what feels great, and then connection.
Right.
So play or an activity that deepens the intimacy in the relationship, deepens the connection in some way.
I literally love that.
I also made an AI, a ChatGPT, that is the restorative relating coach. It has baked in the whole process. I
Yeah.
uploaded the whole course into it, into the context engine. So now it's like a 24/7 AI coach. So like any relational situation, like what do I do? It'll give you the framework and an example of exactly what to say for all of it. It's super epic.
Is this specifically as if they're talking to you?
Yeah. It's personalized.
So cool.
And you type in whatever you're
Yeah.
going through and it'll respond from a place of restorative relating framework with examples. It's profound. Yeah,
AI is crazy,
it's
man. This shit
crazy.
is wild.
Yeah.
so, so I'm curious, where did Sacred City fall into in the realm of humans together, timeline wise?
Humans Together is an expression of the work I was doing with Alex, which is around organizations. So more like team productivity and peace. So Humans Together was an emergence of that, me really taking the piece that I resonated with, which is team building and operations and all that kind of stuff, and relating in a sustainable, healthy way to actually be successful in our mission or
Right.
our goal. So basically, I got a call to go to Bali. Actually, Alex
Yeah.
wanted to go to Bali. She ended up not going
Okay.
to Bali, and I went to Bali instead.
And when was this? Just
This
so we
was
can keep timeline.
2019. 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, 2019. So I was
So is
working
this
with,
pre or post Chipotle realization?
this is pre Chipotle realization. Yeah.
Okay.
So there,
We just want to keep the timeline straight for the audience, you
I
know?
appreciate that. Holding the container strong, but I appreciate that. But Sacred City really emerged in Bali. I went to Bali. I
Okay.
experienced Kirtan. I experienced breath work. I experienced cacao ceremonies. Experienced all the conscious, cool stuff, all the embodiment practices, all the remembrance practices, helping me reconnect to what feels true for me and express that authentically in the world and feel like I am participating in the miracle. That's kind of how I express spirituality, is like I'm remembering and I'm embodying as a contribution and as participation in a
Right.
bigger story, which I call the miracle. Whatever is going on, whatever the heck is unfolding. So I got pretty spiritually blasted in Bali, got connected to Kirtan. I was really obsessed with it, going like 2 Kirtans a week. And I brought that back to Florida and America and the West. And I just started doing it and doing it and doing it. And it just kept growing and growing and growing.
What is kirtan for those who have no idea?
Yeah, Kirtan is mantra meditation. Ecstatic singing is another way you could express
Okay.
it. It's basically harnessing singing to remember who I am, to connect with different energies within and rebuild that intimacy with them, and then bring that into my daily life. From that place of remembrance, bring that into my moment to moment embodied experience. So I was just doing that, and it was helping me in life. And then people started gathering around, and it was growing and growing and growing. And what's cool is it didn't have a name. We were just showing up on Thursday nights, and there was food, and it was happening, and people were coming. And, I just was a servant to it. I just kept showing up and then continually asking, what do I need to build next to allow this to continue to do what it's doing?
Where did you initially start these? Where were you doing them out of?
Actually, in the backyard of my place right here. It was in a
Okay.
yurt. It's my buddy's house, and he had a yurt, but he was out of the country, and we were doing it
Yeah.
in his yurt. And it's actually this house. It's this backyard right here. So pretty crazy
Wow.
because I've left this house and since come back. But what I realized is Sacred City really is me getting to practice all my humans together stuff. So I'm basically
Right.
creating community, and I'm using all the principles and all the practices and all the communication and all the clarity and all the check-ins and everything to grow a community on a bigger scale. I didn't realize it, but I was basically getting this incredible playground for me to do what I love, which is creating structure, helping people communicate better, creating really healthy agreements, and facilitating community, a community
Right.
that feels like it's progressing, that's moving in a direction together in a sustainable way. So I feel like I was born for this in a way. I've been cultivating all these skills to then be able to
Right.
support and show up for this community that's been emerging through spirit, so
Yep.
it's pretty
Yep.
wild.
Yep. Like it's birthing through you.
Yeah, I did not know I was gonna be singing kirtan and like doing all this stuff. It's really random and also like not random at all. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah. Well, you were telling me when I came to visit you, like let's backtrack a little bit and talk about like who Thomas was pre Bali, pre Chipotle, aha moment. You're in a fraternity. I'm sure. Were you drinking? Like what? Like who were you then? And
oh yeah.
where did that shift start happening? Like, did you? Was it just like complete like 180 after Bali, or was it kind of like inching up towards that? Or give us a little bit of coloring on that.
I would say as a child, like I was always deep and thinking deeper about things and wanting to have deeper conversations and like just wanting to explore things. I was like, I was athletic, but I was kind of nerdy. I was in, gifted programs and stuff like that. So I was nerdy, like good at math. I just wanted to go deep into everything. I was
Yeah.
fascinated with space and the cosmos. I feel like there's like a person, like a kind of a personality type or something of people who just want to go deep. Like they don't want to
Yeah.
say, how are you? They want to say, tell me what changed your life today. There's just, I find there's people who are super lit up by going deep, and sometimes there are people who aren't. And that's a neutral thing. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
always felt like that. Like I was always the one wanting to go deep. I was always having these really deep conversations with everyone. So that was always present. And then also I was always like in more of a stewardship, leadership position on the soccer field or in class projects, stuff like that. So I was always feeling into relational dynamics, group psychology. How can we all come together and get something done? Because I'm trying to win soccer games. I'm trying to get good grades on my projects. I'm trying to like be the best fraternity on the college campus. So like I got to figure this people thing out. So I was always
Yeah.
very interested. I wanted to go deep, and I was really interested in people and the dynamics of relationship. But yeah, so that was always present. And then what's interesting in college, the fraternity, like, yes, I did this a lot. I drank a lot of beer. I went out. At one point, I think I went out like 60 something nights in a row. Like we went hard. I lived in the fraternity house for 3 years. It was a reality TV show. I don't remember all of it.
Where'd you go to
Um,
school?
UCF in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, go Knights. So, but the interesting thing about that is it was really like a master's program in relational dynamics and humans being together, because it was a bunch of guys, young guys, like charged up, like um, drinking, doing stuff. Like it was a very chaotic, wild environment. And at the same time, we were being tasked to create a functioning, values based, productive organization that was not going to get kicked off campus. Like, we had to figure
Right.
out how to stay on campus, how to have a high enough GPA. Like, we had to figure this thing out with a bunch of 80 to 100 wild dudes just trying to rage. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
master's degree in figuring out how do we get people on the same page. And we had
Right.
a fraternity where guys were like type A, confident, like personalities. Everyone seemed to have just like a strong personality and just wanted to, wield that. And so how do we get all these dudes who are like alpha vibes, these kind of like strong dudes? How do we get on the same page? Everyone, like,
Right.
so I had to figure that out. What are everyone's needs? What does everyone want? Like, how do we do accountability in a way that actually works? Like, and I struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled and was like really struggling to do this in college. And
Were you on like the board? I don't know how frats work. Is there like a
yeah, yeah. Uh, Most of the time I was on the exact team for sure. And
okay,
and
okay, okay.
my big awakening with that actually was my tendency to judge, and that I feel held me back in college, is because I would be like,
Okay.
they just want to do drugs in the bathroom, and like they're getting us in trouble, like screw them. And I would kind of like create separation for myself and certain people, and I realized
Right.
in doing that the trust was broken, and now we were
Right.
no longer in a productive relationship at all.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, screw you, man. You know what I mean? So a big awakening I had in college was, Thomas, if you want to lead people, love them first, essentially.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then the next awakening is, don't worry about leading, just go where you're being called to serve. If that ends up being a
Right.
leadership position, great. It's really not about leadership. To me, it's about stewardship and service. Serve wherever I'm best fit. So that was another
Mm-hmm.
piece of it as well, because I remember I ran for president of the Interfraternity Council, and I remember I thought I earned it. I thought I really had it, and then I lost. And I remember going to my mentor and saying, PJ, Brother Stevens, all honor to his name. I was like, PJ, screw this, screw them, I'm out. And he's like, what are you in it for? Are you in it for the position, or are you in it to serve? The people didn't want you in this position, but you're being called to another position. So what are you in it for? And I was like,
Ooh.
damn. I was like, damn, because it was a confrontation with my ego, that I really just wanted the
Right.
title.
Of
I wanted to
course.
go out to the bar and say I was the IFC president. That's what I wanted. You know what I mean? And a
Yeah.
part of me wanted that. And there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that. There's nothing wrong with that. But clearly it wasn't, helping. So
But
I ended,
recognizing, but by getting clear and recognizing the truth of that, right?
yeah,
Of like,
totally.
that's not good, bad, right, or wrong, but that is true.
Exactly. Acknowledging, shining light on reality. And I'm a big fan of that
Right.
these days. So I acknowledged that and I ended up being vice president of the IFC, and it was incredible. It was so much fun. Me and the president were best friends, and it was amazing. So yeah, I've constantly had these awakenings along my journey in all these
Right.
situations that felt like really tough and a lot of
Yeah.
tension and a lot of sadness and overwhelm and like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do this? But I come back to the Chipotle thing is like I'd rather be on a planet with other human beings and us
Right.
co-creating things beyond what I would do myself. I'm interested in that game, and I'd rather
Right.
deal with the suffering of that game than the suffering of being alone on an empty planet. And that's what it comes back to. Is like it's just worth it. I don't think it's the right thing to do to like be empathetic or be vulnerable or take ownership or be willing to get curious and negotiate with someone to create win-wins. I don't think that's like the right way to live. I just think it's a more fun way and a less suffering way to do life
Right.
from my perspective. And so that's why I've been on this like relentless journey of figuring this shit out and also bowing in humility of I don't think I've figured it out for everyone. I've just found some
Right.
things that have worked for me and maybe they'll work for others.
Well, clearly it's working. Even before I met you, I've just been hearing in the ether from everybody, like, they're talking about conscious communities, they're talking about, the different vibes. And from so many people I've heard, St. Pete has a great conscious community. St. Pete has a great conscious community. You talk to anybody that has any relations with St. Pete and you say Sacred City, and they're like, oh, Thomas? I even freaking this weekend, I was at Daybreaker and somebody mentioned St. Pete, and I was like, "Oh, you know Thomas?" And he was like, "Of course I know Thomas." Like
Wow.
you've become a pillar in the community that you're creating in, and me. So finally, I've been traveling nomadic for the last 2 years, and I knew that I was going to be in town for a wedding, and the first thing I did was hit Thomas up, and I was like, "Yo, I want to come to one of your events. I need to see what the hype is about. Like, I got to see this in real life." And so Thomas was very gracious and hosted me on that futon that you see behind
Yeah,
you
right there.
in this frame. And I was like, because I was staying at my parents and it's pretty far. And I was like, I'd love to come out. I'd love to experience what you're building. And it was such a vibe. Like, it was such a cool thing to witness not only you in your magic, which was wonderful and amazing and just really special to witness, but just to see what you've built, to see the community, to see the coffee shop, to see the people, to see the people hanging out at the fire after the kirtan, and just
Yeah.
like it's such a thing. And I've traveled all around the world. I've been to Bali, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Tulum, I've been to Amsterdam, I've been to all these beautiful, very high vibe, intentional, conscious spaces. And what you've created is on par with all of these spaces. The feeling that you get when you walk into any of those rooms is the feeling that you get when you walk into the Sacred City experience. And
Mm.
it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, I am constantly inspired and amazed by everyone who comes and the magic that
Yeah.
they bring. Because I always say, like, it's everyone's laying their brick in the sacred city. Everyone's laying their bricks,
Right.
and that's something I realized. And I appreciate you sharing that and honoring
Yeah.
me in that way. And I'm like, why are I think it was during our New Year's Eve event, and I was like, why is this so amazing? And I just looked around and I was like, everyone here is bringing it. Like they are not
Yeah.
just here; they are participating. They
Yeah.
are bringing the gift of their authentic expression. They are here and they
Yeah.
are offering that. They don't have to. They could kind of,
Right.
just be very timid and kind of, like they could not
But
even show up, but they're opening and they're expressing and they're laying their bricks. And so there's just magic everywhere.
right. But to counter that, and I know you're being humble right now, people need to feel safe in order to do that.
Right.
And they need to be within a container of safety, and somebody needs to create that container.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you. I
throw.
hear you. There's a dance. And yeah,
It's a dance for sure. So I would love to chat about what's happening right now. There's some really exciting things shifting in your world. I know that when I came to connect with you, you are like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed with like massive dreams, which is so cool. And I love being around big dreamers. I love being around people that are putting in the work, right? This podcast is all about like taking aligned action towards your dreams. So
yep.
clarity on the dream, which we had in Bali, we had in the Chipotle line. We started taking action on the dream. We started Humans Together. We decided we went to Bali and we're like, this needs to exist in Florida. We're going to make this happen. You started in the backyard. We're building. Now, what did you say? You're having consistently how many people every month or every other,
We have
what is
like,
it, every other week?
yeah, I would say like 50 to 75 at our Kirtans. Yeah, we had like 60 at our first ecstatic dance called Dance Portal. We've
And how
had
often are the events?
twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So
our bigger
pretty
events,
significant
we do
growth.
bigger celebrations. We've had up to like 194 people plus team. So yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
So we've been growing to consistently sell out numbers like that on a
Yeah.
very consistent basis is no small feat to somebody who's just dipping their toe into the event space. I fully recognize that selling out numbers like that on a consistent basis is absolutely no small feat, and you're not done. There's still more. So I would love to hear what you're building towards. If you're open to sharing um, any new exciting things that are happening.
You trying to get the scoop?
We want the scoop. What's going on?
We publicly announced it a couple weeks ago, so
Okay, great.
yeah, we can talk about it. Um, so we've been doing this for since the very, very, very beginning, where it was like 3 people, for about 4 years.
Right.
And we started in the yurt, then we went to a living room, and then we went to a yoga studio, and then we went to a conscious venue, and then we went to a church, like a non-denominational church, and we had this whole like
Right.
epic situation, and then they had to move from that place, and we went back to the conscious venue. So we've been on a journey of like new spaces and growth, and it's exciting. And what I realize is, and remember I said I always ask that question: what infrastructure do I need to build for what's emerging next? That's how I see like stewardship in many ways: is can I show up fully to what's here now, and can I tune into what's next and build the infrastructure so that expansion can have the infrastructure it needs to happen. It's kind of like
Right.
building a sidewalk. I want to build that next step, so when I take that next step, there's concrete I can step into.
Right. Right.
And it's
Right.
just been so apparent that it's time for us to create our thing, based on our pillars and our vision and our purpose and our community and our favorite colors, and how we do things. And it's just time. And I think the Sacred City community is looking for a space that feels fully Sacred City, and I think that's a beautiful thing. And at the same time, it lines up perfectly with a conscious leader in this community. His name is Tanner Seva. He's been running Roots to Crown, which is the venue we've been working with for a long time, and he's feeling complete in his community stewardship. He's really laid the foundations. When I came back to St. Pete after Bali, I met tons of people, and I realized there was a community in St. Pete because it was his ecstatic dance and it was his stewardship. So
Right.
he's been laying foundations for a while and really creating spaces for us. And I'm grateful for that. And I honor him, and I tell him again and again, like, your bricks are here forever. Like, we are standing on your shoulders in many ways, and we're grateful for you.
Yeah.
Um, and he's feeling complete. So we like the space. We also have a vision for, renovating it and making it more ours, making it feel more like temple like, bringing more of like the home energy into it. So he's completing his lease there, and we're starting a new lease with the building owners as of May 1st. We'll be taking over the Roots to Crown venue and calling it
Wow.
Sacred City Center. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's so
It's
exciting.
dope. It's dope. It's so exciting. Just met with the design team, aka like the feminine oracles, this morning, and they laid out all their visions for all the areas of the place. And we're gonna get tons of plants. We're gonna make it super sacred and epic and just quality, and just like, we're jazzed. We're super jazzed about it. We began fixing a lot of the bones, like more of the masculine
Yeah.
is coming in first. We're gonna be working on electrical and stuff like that, starting on Sunday, this weekend. So,
Wow.
th- yeah, things are happening. We're super
That
stoked.
happens so fast too.
I know.
I
I
know.
know.
I know. I came. When did I come in? Like February? Like it wasn't
Yeah,
that long
I think
ago.
Feb.
I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I remember we were chatting and you were like, "We're thinking about brick and mortar. Feels like the next step. We're looking at spaces, and then it's like You know, they say that the most successful people, the marker of success is the amount of time between idea and execution
Mm,
is minimal. The
mm,
faster you can go from having an idea to executing on it, because once you execute, you can iterate, you know, you could shift, you could change,
yeah.
you could fix, but it's like you just sit there and sit on that idea and you could have that idea for years, but he's a mover and a shaker, kids.
Well, I think something about it is like I'm tending to what's emerging. So it's
Right,
not like a random idea. It's where am I feeling the energy is moving to, and what do I need to
right,
build to support that? So I think so when I have the idea, there's a lot of buy-in from everyone because they're feeling it
right.
too. And then there's a lot of readiness, so that there's a lot of this momentum. So I think,
Right.
I think with consistent action also comes that alignment piece. So like it's coming from a place of
100%.
alignment. It's coming from a place of where we've come so far and we're just building the next thing. You know what I mean? So it's not like a random idea. There's just a lot of momentum behind it because of the
So,
attunement.
so on that, I have some questions for you
Hit
to
me.
hit on. So, how do you discern the difference between fear of, like, you know, not feeling ready? You know, it sounds like for you you're just like very very in tune with what wants to unfold, but I'd say for somebody who's maybe not as in tune with that,
Mm-hmm.
and they're desiring to step into something but maybe they're not doing it because there's fear present, or maybe they're not doing it because XYZ, like, I'm curious, you know, what your advice for somebody would be to step into that level of how do you get so clear that you're like, there's no question, this is the path. I feel similarly too, by the way. When I'm
Yeah.
moving, I'm like, I always say I'm in flow with what wants to unfold. People are like, do you live in Florida? Where are you going next? When are you traveling next? When are you setting roots? And I'm like, it's not even up to me. Like, I am in flow. I wasn't planning on being in Miami for as long as I've been, but this is where I'm meant to be right now. This is where things are unfolding, and
Yeah.
I've tuned into that. But I've had a hard time figuring out how to articulate that to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if you have the words for that.
I would say that when this has happened to me in my life, when I feel stuck or stagnant or not doing something, it's because what I'm trying to do is version 5 when really what's being asked of me is version 2.
Ooh,
The question I like to ask someone is what's the effortless next step
yeah. We try to
versus
skip some. We're trying to skip some steps. We're trying to
that's
go to
it.
space when we haven't even gone on a plane
That's
yet.
it. And that can feel scary and overwhelming. And then I maybe would just sit there freaking out and do nothing. And, maybe I might start chugging Miller Lights again. Who knows? I don't think I ever liked Miller Lite back in the day, but anywho, I think it was like actually it's probably worse. It was like Natty Light. That was it.
Fucking Four Locos.
Oh, that was a high
The
school.
original. The original.
Oh, of course, we go hard like that for sure.
Crazy thing is that I was already so fucking hyperactive. Four Locos did nothing to me.
Yeah, you're a sicko, and I respect it. That's what I would say.
No, I think you just.
The next
I
step,
think you
like
just hit
what's
the
the
nail on the head. I love
yeah,
that.
and from there, okay, what's the effortless next step? Then the question is, what's the daily nudge? So, what can I do today to
Okay.
nudge the next step forward to get a little closer? And that's something I've learned is like patience. But patience to me isn't just do nothing and surrender to it. Patience is take a step every day and allow it to emerge. Do my part
Yep.
and allow it to emerge. And so the question I'm always asking myself is, am I doing my part? Or is there more I can do? In that way. Is
Yes.
fear getting in
Yes.
the way of me doing my part with my daily nudge? So, what's my daily nudge today to move toward version 2?
So, what was your daily nudge today?
Let's see. Daily nudge today was the meeting with the design team and getting them
Yeah.
anchored in the vision, getting them feeling
Yeah.
a coherence around what the plan is, getting everyone
Yeah.
committed to the WhatsApp group, and
Yeah.
next steps that have a timeline and are going to get done. And so I was like, okay, now the design team is connected and they have next steps and they're ready to move forward and do their thing. And they know if they need to ask anything from me, that I'm here to support them. And there's a final deliverable. And I'm like, okay, design team. And it's taken a long time to get to that point. First, it was like, who's on the design team? And,
Right.
and then it's, are they down, and having those conversations. And then it's, can we all
Right.
meet together and kind of just build that initial connection. And then the next nudge is, let's all meet up and do this again and start talking about plants and, colors and all this kind of stuff. So this whole project has helped me like really honor and revere the daily nudge, because I've had to nudge
Right.
to get to that conversation with the building owners. I've been nudging for weeks to get to that point, and then the meeting
Right.
finally happens. You know what I mean? So
Right.
the daily nudge is the key, and that's what I realized. Like, it's less about outcomes these days, and it's more about, have I nudged everything I care about and value today? Is there, and that's it. And then, okay, then let the universe do its part, and then I nudge again, and then the universe does its part, and then I nudge again. And that's the unfolding, and that's, to me, that's a fun way to participate, because now I'm not really controlling, I'm more participating, and that opens up
Yeah.
surprises and really interesting things that could happen. It's fascinating.
I want a little Thomas in my pocket. Little, like, that's gonna be my new daily nudge. I'm just gonna have. Oh, we got AI now. There
We
we
got
go.
AI. Yeah, I got you. The restorative relating coach could be a good place to start.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love and hate when this happens, when we're coming up on time and I'm like, but wait, there were so many other things I wanted to talk about. But that's a beautiful thing. That just means that there's always more magic and just all the things. That's why I never really have notes for the podcast too. It's like you can have an idea of what you want to talk about, and then the conversation is going to unfold exactly as it wants to. And I think the fact that I get to share even these little nuggets, like, I'm going to take that with me. That was maybe one of the most profound things I've heard. It's thinking about what's holding me back if I'm trying to get to level 5 when it's meant for level 2. Like, that is
I've never
like,
said it
anyone.
exactly like that either. I
Love
never,
that though. I
yeah,
love
yeah.
that. You guys, I hope that y'all take that with you, that you think about what is your level 2, what are you not doing in that daily nudge. There's such beautiful takeaways. I'm going to put at the show notes below, I'm going to put I could put the Sacred City website, I could put the Instagram, I could put your Instagram. If there's anything else you want to plug, I know we talked about the human relating course, but you can recap, replug, share whatever you want to share. This is your moment.
I'm just really obsessed with the restorative relating concept, or
Yeah.
the practice of it. And I really want
Yeah.
to see what it's like for more people to experience that and kind of hear stories from the arena of their lives.
Yeah.
So I really recommend the free course, just to get the framework and then try it on a couple times, and then just let me know how it went. Because with that, I'm more focused on just getting it out there and seeing what happens than anything
Okay.
else. So that's humanstogether.co/relationships, I
I'm
believe.
gonna put that in the
I
show
think.
notes as well. I'm
Cool.
gonna put the link to the free human relating course. You
Yeah.
guys check it out, see how it goes. Me and Thomas are real people. Feel free to reach out to us directly if you like this episode. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you like, subscribe, reach out, share with your friends. Thomas, thank you so much for saying yes, for coming on, for sharing your magic with this audience. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.